Welcome to Obscure Footballer of the Week, a brand new series here on Retro Football Club, where we dust off old sticker albums, rewind fuzzy VHS tapes, and dig through the memory banks to celebrate the footballers that time, and the top flight quietly forgot. These are the players who may have played a handful of games and disappeared. The transfer flops who arrived with promise and left under a cloud of confusion. The squad fillers you only remember because their name popped up on Championship Manager, or because they once had a Merlin sticker despite never starting a match. We're not talking about the global icons or the Ballon d'Or winners, we're talking about the cult curiosities, the oh yeah, him, players whose careers were short, strange, or just plain puzzling. The ones who didn't light up the league, but still earned a weird little corner of football folklore. And for our very first episode, we're starting with a Premier League pioneer, but not in the way you might expect. He was the first Italian to ever play in the Premier League, a striker with a solid goal record in Serie A, and a man who once shared a dressing room with Maradona. But when he landed in Nottingham in 1995, it quickly became clear that this was going to be memorable for all the wrong reasons. Episode 1 of Obscure Footballer of the Week is all about the curious case of Andrea Silenzi, a player who arrived with quiet hype, made barely a ripple, and left behind one of the strangest legacies of the early Premier League era. Let's take a closer look. In the Premier League's early days, foreign signings still carried a sense of mystery. Before YouTube highlights and tactical analysis, transfers from abroad were based on word of mouth, reputation, and hope. So when Nottingham Forest signed Andrea Silenzi in 1995, the first Italian to ever play in the Premier League, there was intrigue. Italian football was at its peak, Serie A ruled Europe, and fans assumed they were getting a refined continental target man. What followed was one of the league's earliest examples of a foreign signing going completely sideways. Born in Rome in 1966, Silenzi began his career with lower league clubs Lodigiani, Arezzo and Reggiana, steadily climbing the ladder. His breakthrough came at Reggiana, where his goal tally of 32 goals in 67 appearances earned him a move to Napoli in 1989, just in time to share a dressing room with Diego Maradona. Although he wasn't a regular starter at Napoli, the experience gave him a profile boost. He moved on to Torino, and that's where he truly flourished. In the 92-93 season, Silenzi scored 17 goals, helping Torino win the Coppa Italia and finishing among Italy's top scorers. A traditional centre-forward, tall, physical and good in the air, Silenzi was seen as effective, if not especially elegant. Still, in the early 90s, that profile was enough to turn heads abroad. In the summer of 1995, Nottingham Forest signed Silenzi for £1.8 million, making him the first Italian to ever play in the Premier League. The move was seen as progressive, a sign that English clubs were starting to tap into the continental market more seriously, with the club seeing Silenzi as a replacement for the outgoing Stan Collymore, who moved to Liverpool during the same summer. But the reality was a culture clash from the start. Silenzi struggled to cope with the pace and physicality of English football. Forest's direct, energetic style left him isolated, and he often looked slow and off the pace. He failed to adapt tactically, appeared disconnected on the pitch, and quickly became the subject of frustration among Forest fans. He made just 12 Premier League appearances, failed to score a league goal, and netted only twice in cup competitions, one in the League Cup and one in the FA Cup. By 1996, he was loaned back to Italy with Venezia, and in 1997, Forest cut their losses and terminated his contract. In hindsight, Silenzi became the first warning sign that not all glamorous-sounding foreign imports would automatically succeed in English football, particularly when there was no clear plan for how they'd be used. Silenzi returned to Italy and had short spells, firstly back with Reggiana, before several spells at Ravenna, and then a surprising second stint at Torino, but his top-level days were behind him. He retired in 2001, having never come close to replicating his early career form again. He ended his career as a player known less for his achievements, and more for his status as one of the Premier League's earliest foreign flops. A trivia answer, a cult figure, and a curious footnote in Forest's history. In the years following his retirement, Silenzi kept a relatively low public profile. He became deeply religious and joined the Seventh-day Adventist Church, crediting his faith with helping him find peace and perspective away from the pressures of professional sport. He returned to Torino briefly in an off-field capacity, and in 2009 he worked as the head of Atletico Roma's youth academy. In a lesser-known chapter, He also became a father to Christian Silenzi, a forward like his dad, who has played for several clubs in Italy's lower leagues including Regina, Cittadinese, and currently Real Calapina. While his son's career hasn't reached top-flight levels, the Silenzi name quietly lives on in Italian football. Andrea Silenzi may not have lit up the Premier League, in fact he barely flickered, but he still holds a place in football history. As the league's first ever Italian, he was a trailblazer in name, if not in performance. In a time before modern scouting networks and highlight reels, his transfer was based on reputation, and his struggles in England became a cautionary tale for a generation of managers and fans. He didn't score many goals, he didn't make many headlines, but if you collected stickers in the mid-90s, played early versions of Championship Manager, or supported Forest during that strange mid-decade spell, chances are you still remember the name, even if you're not quite sure why. And that's exactly why Andrea Silenzi is our Obscure Footballer of the Week. Thanks for watching. Pop a comment on the video for who you think should be featured in this series. We'll be back next week with more obscure retro goodness.